We'll open up the session of the House Finance Committee.
House?
Just so that everybody knows that there are senators that will be in and out because there's a lot of bills being heard in various committees today. And our first bill is Senate Bill 454, and we have the prime sponsor already there. If he'd introduce himself, and we'll get started.
Good afternoon, Senators. Dan Innes from Bradford, New Hampshire, representing District 7. And this is a pretty simple little bill that makes a relatively minor but significant change to funding for affordable housing. And as you all recall, last year we took some bold steps to address the housing issue. Senator Perkins Coca and I each had bills that took some very positive steps to address this issue. Housing is affecting our business community, the ability to hire staff, and quite frankly, the ability of young people to get started in our state at the beginning of their career. So I think anything that we can do to help that would be good for us to attempt to put through. So in this particular bill, 454, you'll note that in Section 3, it directs the state treasurer to change the amount of money allocated to affordable housing from the real estate transfer tax from $5 million to $10 million. And I would note that in an op-ed that appeared this weekend, Senators Bradley and Carson stated that finding affordable housing is not only a challenge for New Hampshire families, but an obstacle to our state's economic well-being. Building more affordable workforce housing is critical, as well as supporting programs to combat homelessness. Republicans plan to address this issue by doubling dedicated funding for the Affordable Housing Fund and making it easier for people to find housing in our state. And I think that covers it. Republicans and Democrats, I hope, will do this because it is the right thing to do. So I trust there are others behind me who will testify, but I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
All right. Does the committee have any questions for Senator Innes? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next on the list is Senator Perkins Coca.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Nice to be here. I have written testimony I'll be submitting, but I just wanted to join you and express my support for this piece of legislation. I know that in budget conversations last year, this was an item that came up and was something we plan to address this year. And so I believe this piece of legislation is just following through on that. I did just want to note that I think our housing market and its health is directly related to the revenue side of the real estate transfer tax. With such a low vacancy rate in the state, which is below 1% statewide, we have residents that are unable to transition into right-sized housing. So, for example, an older person may want to downsize into a condominium but is unable to find one, or a family may be contemplating another baby but is unable to find, a 3-bedroom home. And so we want to make sure that there's enough housing units in our market that the vacancy rate can continue through market processes to rise a little bit so that our residents can move around, creating more real estate transfers and creating more real estate transfer tax, and in the process meeting their needs. So I just wanted to be here to make those couple points. I'll submit my testimony to the committee. Can I answer any questions?
Questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
United Way of Greater Nashua, Appleburg.
I compliment you on the pronunciation. It usually doesn't come out that way, so thank you very much.
Hey, I tried,
That was obvious. Mike Appleburg with United Way of Greater Nashua. I do have written testimony that I'll be submitting. I come up here today to offer support.
And just a reminder to the rest of the committee that a lot of the testimony that we're getting is being put up online, so that if you have any problem getting to it, and your testimony will be up online after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. There we go. Okay, so I won't bother to read my entire testimony. I just wanted to offer support. We've offered support for this fund in the past as well. The need for affordable housing in Nashua is, beyond, really beyond the pale at this point. I took the liberty to go yesterday on to Zillow, my friend Zillow, and look for rental housing, and you'll find that the least expensive available rental unit in Nashua today, as a 2-bedroom unit, is $1,600 a month, and that is really a reflection of where we're at as a community. It's virtually impossible for people to afford that if it's even available. So this type of a fund that stimulates investment in these public and private partnerships to create housing is just really critical. And so we would encourage you to endorse this additional investment in the Affordable Housing Fund. That's really all I'll offer as far as, except for my written testimony as well. So thank you very much, unless you have any questions.
Questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much. All right, Rebecca White, Hanover Co-op Food.
Here we go. All right. Good afternoon. Thank you to Chairman Gray and to the Senate Finance Committee for your diligence and work to balance the needs and well-being of New Hampshire with the resources available to us today. I am Rebecca White in service of the Hanover Co-op Food Stores, and I'm here to offer brief comments in support of SB 454. The Hanover Consumer Cooperative Society, founded in 1936, continues to grow as our surrounding communities and membership also grow. What started as citrus cases being purchased and shared between neighbors during the Great Depression has grown to 3 major food stores, 2 auto service centers, a production kitchen, and $90 million of sales annually. As the needs of our community grow, so do our services. That is why, in 2018, faced with the housing issue that is so ubiquitous in our conversation today, we joined with neighboring businesses to create and capitalize a nearly $10 million revolving loan fund. Today, the Upper Valley Loan Fund is helping to bring 240 affordable housing units off the page and into our communities. These homes and projects otherwise likely would have faltered or folded during the dramatic interest rate peaks of the last 3 years. As the 2023 Granite State poll has confirmed, lack of housing options is the #1 priority and concern for Granite Staters. What better way to have these funds working for New Hampshire and our communities than through the Affordable Housing Fund? This revolving loan fund model will benefit the diversity of housing stock through work with nonprofit and traditional developers. From affordable workforce housing to smaller scale infill development that will revitalize our downtowns. And importantly, it will create vibrant communities of dense housing for seniors to downsize into, improving their quality of life in their winter years and releasing single-family houses back into the market. HB 454 continues the work that was started in 2019 with the bipartisan approval of an annual allocation from the real estate transfer tax to the Affordable Loan Fund. I thank you again for your attention to this important moment for our communities and our state. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Carmen Lorenz from Lakes Region Community Development.
Good afternoon. My name is Carmen Lorenz. I'm the Executive Director at Lakes Region Community Developers. We're a nonprofit developer of affordable housing based up in Laconia. We've developed affordable housing communities all throughout the Lakes region, including one in Tilton in your district, Senator Innes, and also over in Wolfboro in Senator Bradley's district. So I wanted to thank you both for your ongoing support and efforts to increase investment in affordable housing in our state. I'm here to speak in favor of SB 454. I think it's a great way to continue forward progress in investing in affordable housing and having a larger, sustainable, ongoing revenue stream into that affordable housing fund is really important, I think, for organizations like mine who work very closely with New Hampshire Housing to put together financing packages to build affordable housing. I can say that we have benefited tremendously from the Affordable Housing Fund over the years. It has helped us build low-income housing tax credit finance developments, as well as putting together financing for supportive housing, permanent supportive housing for very low-income individuals with complex needs. So again, thank you very much for your consideration, and look forward to seeing this bill move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions from committee members? Seeing none. Housing Action New Hampshire.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Alyssa Margolin. I serve as Director of Housing Action New Hampshire. Housing Action New Hampshire is a statewide coalition of 80 organizations united in support for increasing the supply of housing that is affordable to Granite Staters. We're grateful to this committee and to the Senate in general for its recognition of the adverse impacts of the housing crisis on New Hampshire and businesses. Your impressive track record of doing something about it. We're in strong support of this proposal to increase the annual allocation of the real estate transfer tax to the Affordable Housing Fund. A couple of key points. Increasing the allocation will not add any additional taxes or fees to real estate transactions. Unlike many other states that fund their trust funds through a fee, New Hampshire avoids this by taking the carve-out approach that you established in 2019. Also, by increasing this, you help with the predictability of financing. You're helping support a more robust affordable housing marketplace. We've seen popularity with these financing tools, and developers will be more open to including more affordable units in their projects and providing that diversification of the housing stock that we need. Finally, I'll just note that recent polling has demonstrated that housing is viewed as the #1 issue for New Hampshire families and businesses. This shift is likely connected to the very real impacts of the affordable housing shortage. Workforce shortages in every sector, including essential services, disincentives for business growth, barriers for young families to call New Hampshire home, challenges about housing choice for retirees, debilitating financial income impacts on lower income families, and the growth in the number of people, including children and older adults who are experiencing homelessness. It took a number of factors and years of underdevelopment to land us in this situation, and it will unfortunately take years to overcome. However, we can't expect that the resulting stock will be more affordable to our workforce without the right type of financing tools, so we thank you very much for this proposal. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much. Robert Terigny, Neighborhood Works.
Robert Turney from NeighborWorks Southern New Hampshire. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I am also here to speak in favor of SB 454, increasing the real estate transfer tax. NeighborWorks Southern New Hampshire has been in the business of building affordable housing for the last 30 years. We've built over 500 affordable rental apartments in our region and literally helped thousands of first-time home buyers be able to enter the American dream of owning a home. And I'm not here to talk about the need for affordable housing today. I think you're all well aware of that. But I will say that creating affordable housing has never been easy, but I've always followed a basic formula of building affordable housing, and that's finding a reasonably priced piece of land with adequate infrastructure and sufficient density to put those elements in place to create an end product that's affordable. And we would utilize financing from New Hampshire Housing, local banks, the Community Development Finance Authority, and other sources to put those resources together to make that end product affordable. Today and for the last couple of years, that formula, that recipe just simply isn't sufficient to make affordable housing happen. It takes a much deeper layer of subsidy to be able to come into the project, to make the numbers work so that we can deliver affordable rents and prices to consumers who are earning less than the area median income. And so as a result of the rising interest rates and continuing high construction costs, I'm in full support of increasing the real estate transfer tax carve-out for the Affordable Housing Fund to help make this challenge a possibility for us. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Neil Kirk, Granite State taxpayers. I kept you because you checked the opposite box of a lot of these people, so I wanted to make sure that you heard most of the testimony before you came up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to you and to members of the committee. It's always a pleasure to be here. I am here today in my capacity as a director of the Board of Directors of Granite State's Taxpayers, which is New Hampshire's oldest statewide advocacy group for taxpayers, founded in 1990 by the late Governor Melvin Thompson and the late New Hampshire Senator George Lovejoy. Granite State Taxpayers opposes this bill, not necessarily because the objective to increase affordable housing is a problem, but because of the timing and the nature of the bill. Specifically, this bill is a tax expenditure. It takes money from a revenue source and diverts it to an expenditure without going through the budget. This is annual and ongoing. It's inappropriate at this time for the following reasons. Number one, it's not a one-time expenditure, and it's not being reviewed in conjunction with the budget. It's a budgetary special. Nobody is trying to say this is a bad idea, but it needs to be weighed against other state priorities, and that's not done, and for that reason, it's not appropriate. It's not going to be reviewed in future budgets. It will always be an expenditure that goes to this organization without further review. This is not a case of an emergency like some of the bills dealing with farm crisis this year and an attempt to provide emergency funding for farmers. That was something that came up after the budget passed, or was certainly not identifiable and quantifiable at the time of the budget, and therefore is appropriate for a legislative special. But this is not, because this housing crisis has been going on for years, and we've set up the Affordable Housing Fund to deal with that. Finally, there is no oversight provision in this bill. What are these units going to cost us? What is the, how many will be constructed? What kind of reporting requirements are there? There are none in this bill. Now, there are some in the Affordable Housing Act, but I think this committee needs to investigate those to see whether or not the legislature and taxpayers are getting the kind of information they need to determine whether or not $5 million or now $10 million under this bill is being used wisely, so that there would be a review of that. That's not done in this bill. I think this committee needs to determine whether the information that's coming from the fund itself is adequate for legislature and taxpayer examination. As a result of for these three reasons, the organization respectfully requests the committee finds this bill inexpedient to legislate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there are any questions, I'd be pleased to try to answer them.
Thank you. Questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
New Hampshire Housing. And I did save you guys for last, so.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, and thank you for having us. I'm Rob Dappas, Executive Director of New Hampshire Housing, joined by my colleague Ben Frost, Deputy Executive Director and Chief Legal Officer, and we will be handing out some copies of a letter in support of Senate Bill 454 and an Affordable Housing Fund fact sheet. Chairman Gray and members of the committee, we appreciate this opportunity to speak. By way of introduction, if anyone's not familiar with New Hampshire Housing, we're an independent, self-supporting corporation with a mission to promote, finance, and support housing solutions for the people of New Hampshire. We don't receive any operating funds from the state, but we were established by statute in 1981 with that mission, and the same statute which established our organization was also later used to create the Affordable Housing Fund and entrust New Hampshire Housing as the steward and administrator of that fund. Since then, the Affordable Housing Fund has functioned as a revolving fund and is an essential tool for the creation of affordable housing, workforce housing, and supportive housing across the state. In the past several bienniums, the governor and legislature have made historic investments in the Affordable Housing Fund, and we thank you, members of the committee, for your leadership on this issue. We have used these funds to help create new housing serving a range of populations and income levels, and as that housing is coming online, it's helping to improve neighborhoods, to help improve health outcomes and work readiness among New Hampshire residents, and decrease homelessness and housing instability that's brought on by our housing crisis. We make Affordable Housing Fund financing available through two basic channels. One is through our allocation of federal housing tax credits, the so-called LIHTC. Using AHF in combination with LIHTC achieves leveraging of state dollars in the range of 7 to 12 federal and private investment dollars for every state dollar that's used. The LIHTC program is designed to not fund the entire project. So if that gap financing from the state were not available, then federal tax credits available to the state of New Hampshire would go unused. Additionally, we administer and make available AHF through our supportive housing funds programs. The Affordable Housing Fund has fewer strings attached to it than a lot of federal funding sources, and so it allows greater flexibility in funding housing for people with mental illness, with developmental disabilities, with substance use disorders, and other special needs. Much of the small-scale housing in New Hampshire communities for people in these populations with other special needs was developed with AHF financing. A question came up about reporting and oversight. I'll just note briefly that by way of reporting, we are required by statute to furnish an annual report, I believe by October 1st of every year, and I don't have copies with me, but we provide that to House and Senate leadership and to the governor. It lists all projects that are under development, as well as a number of other metrics to measure our program activity, and we can certainly provide those copies of that annual report to members of the committee.
If you do provide it to Deb, we will have it up on the website for people who want to look at it.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we'll do that. And in terms of oversight, the authority is governed by a board of directors that is appointed by the governor, serving 5-year terms, and approved by the executive council. One final note, I'll mention that all properties financed with Affordable Housing Fund are affordable for at least 20 years, and depending on the other funding source used in combination, affordability periods of 30 to 60, and in some cases 99 years are more common. So with that, Ben or I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Questions, Senator Perkins?
Thank you. Do you have a sense of, for every dollar in this fund, how much is leverage in other sources?
Yes, it ranges from $7 to $12, a combination of federal funds, private investments, bank loans from local banks, and things like that. Yep.
Additional questions? Seeing none, thank you. Is there anyone out there that checked the wrong box or didn't sign in?
Joni McIntyre.
Okay, you come on forward. Just in the future, check the speaking box.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Good afternoon. My name is Joni McIntyre. I'm an associate broker at Coldwell Banker J. Hampy Associates, and I am the 2024 president of the New Hampshire Association of Realtors. The New Hampshire Realtors would ask that you support Senate Bill 454. The median sale price for a single-family home last year, 2023, was $470,000, up 7% from 2022. For a condominium, it's $380,000, which is up 10%. Those prices are simply not affordable for most New Hampshire workers. In fact, the New Hampshire Affordability Index is currently at 66. This means that the median household income in New Hampshire is only 66% of what it takes to buy the median single-family home. This is an abysmal number. In a healthy market, we would see an index of over 120. To many New Hampshire families and workers, too many New Hampshire families and workers are effectively locked out of the housing market. Realtors recognize these dollars are more likely to go to multifamily apartments than single-family homes. However, New Hampshire needs to take a multifaceted approach. We need apartments, we need single-family homes, condos, and manufactured housing. It needs to be an all-of-the-above approach to housing. I would be remiss if, on behalf of the Realtors, I didn't thank you and other legislative leaders for your actions in House Bill 2 last year. You recognized the lack of affordable housing options was negatively impacting New Hampshire families, its workforce, and businesses, and appropriated historic levels of funding for housing. We thank you. Realtors believe that it is entirely appropriate for a portion of the real estate transfer tax to be guaranteed for New Hampshire Affordable Housing Fund. The nexus between real estate taxes and housing is self-evident. While we enthusiastically support this bill, we also approach it with some caution and concern. New Hampshire already has one of the highest statewide transfer taxes in the country. We would vigorously oppose any further attempts to increase the real estate transfer tax in order to satisfy this funding. We would be equally concerned if efforts were made to dictate transfer tax receipts to funding which is not directly related to the expansion of housing opportunities in the state. This bill does neither of those things, so we support it. Finally, while federal and state appropriations are critically important to expanding affordable housing options in our state, these new dollars nor the money appropriated last year will even come close to resolving the housing crisis. The only way that can be accomplished is by expanding private property rights in New Hampshire and empowering the private sector to do what they always have done, meet the demand by creating more supply. But that's a discussion for another day. Thank you, and we ask you for your support of 454.
Questions from the committee?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question of the LBA?
Yeah, and should we keep the witness on the stand or or
I
not?
think she's okay.
All right,
Well,
she's
good to go.
okay.
You're okay. The real estate transfer now has a number of carve-outs. What are the carve-outs that exist today in the real estate transfer?
I'm going to hold that question until we get into executive session.
Okay.
So if she's got the question now, she can
Okay.
provide a detailed answer when we, and if we go into executive session, if you would, Senator.
Sure.
Okay,
But she understands the question.
All right. In addition to the people who have spoken, there are two other people who signed in today, one opposed and one for the bill. And online, there was 17 in support and 3 opposed. And with that, we will close this hearing. And in just a minute, we will open the next one.
Give me a minute, my recorder's not working, I just want to look at it.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Well, you look at towns like Durham with all these state-owned buildings and those houses.
Okay, we'll open the hearing on Senate Bill 392 and welcome the prime sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, I'm Cindy Rosenwald from Senate District 13 in Nashua. And I'm pleased to introduce today Senate Bill 392, which makes an appropriation to replenish our successful lead paint hazard remediation program, which is administered by New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority. Lead at any level in a child's blood is toxic. So this program is especially important in the areas of our state that have old housing stock. The lead, excuse me, the lead fund was established in 2019, capitalized with $3 million. It's been replenished once with another $3 million, but it will run out of money by the end of this fiscal year because the money is out there working across our state. Since its inception, the program has funded remediation in 460 rental units at an average cost of $8,200 and 26 single-family homes at an average cost much higher of $37,000. Priority is given to homes with children under 6 who are most at risk. One child care center has also been remediated. In the past year alone, 81 units were renovated and 62 contractors were trained in lead-safe practices. The program works by making zero-interest loans for these purposes, and the money is recouped when the property is sold or if it's refinanced. Lead paint's extremely toxic to young children, can lead to learning deficits throughout a child's student years. Several years ago, in keeping with national clinical standards, the state enacted universal screening recommended for all 1- and 2-year-olds and lowered the blood level of lead at which the state would implement nurse case management. Children on Medicaid are disproportionately more likely to have elevated blood lead levels. So for those children, we face not only increased education costs, but increased health costs. The appropriation in the bill as introduced is drafted so as to first ask the governor to identify by September 1st if there are ARPA funds which have been appropriated and encumbered, but which we believe will not be spent. The balance in the version as introduced would come from the Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust. I had to sign off on the bill by a certain date, so I have a proposed amendment, which you all have, which takes, well, it does 2 things. One, it references the specific section of RSA 204C, which is the lead paint hazard remediation program. And 2, it makes general funds the backup source if there are not unspent ARPA funds instead of the Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust, which I think is much more appropriate for this bill.
For the public, the amendment number is 2024-0028S.
Correct. There are people behind me who can speak much more knowledgeably to the technical aspects of this program, but I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Questions? Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator, for bringing this forward. Senator, do we have any idea of the number of homes that are still lead painted and haven't been taken care of? I know in my area, I have many multi-family dwellings, old homes that were painted with lead paint.
Prior to 1973, I think it was.
Yes, for sure.
I read something today, and I'll probably hear from New Hampshire Housing, but I think I read that 53% of our housing stock is at risk. Okay,
They'll be up to testify anyway, so.
so it's a lot.
Yes,
It's
sure.
really the cities, all the cities, and except for the newer suburban developments, all of that housing is likely to have lead paint somewhere in it. And when it flakes or becomes aerosolized, it's really dangerous.
Thank,
Thank you.
thank you.
Additional questions? Seeing none?
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to Abby Rogers, DHHS.
Good afternoon. My name is Abby Rogers. For the record, I'm the legislative liaison for the Division of Public Health Services, and we are pleased to be here to provide some information on this bill. I appreciate the opportunity to be here to talk about SB 392. The Department of Health and Human Services supports primary prevention efforts, such as appropriating additional funding for the New Hampshire Housing Authority lead-paid hazard remediation fund. The NHHFA provides tools, resources, and funding through federal grants and state loans to assist homeowners and residential property owners and to make child care facilities lead safe and certified. The appropriation suggested for this bill would not directly impact the department, but investing in this fund is fiscally sound and will ultimately reduce a lifetime and economic burden for childhood lead exposure across New Hampshire. The department doesn't have any comments specifically on the funding mechanism for this, but we support this, and investing in this fund will reduce, help to reduce lead poisoning for children in older home stock. Elevated lead levels can affect attention, cause other health impacts, as the committee is well aware of, and we appreciate Senator Roswell bringing this bill forward. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you. I submitted my testimony online.
All right. Ms. McIntyre.
Hello again. I'm here representing New Hampshire Association of Realtors. The New Hampshire Realtors would ask support of Bill 392, Senate Bill 392. Realtors, healthcare professionals, property owners, health advocates all agree that we need to remove lead from our state's housing infrastructure. The challenge is that the financial impact to do so is enormous, likely hundreds of millions of dollars or more. Of course, the cost of doing nothing is not an option. A lead paint remediation order can be a challenge for many property owners. It can add tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to operational costs, which then can be turned over to the tenants. This appropriation will not only assist children who are impacted by lead paint and its devastating consequences, but will also help alleviate the cost of renting by providing property owners the assistance they need to remediate the lead paint hazards. They will in turn aid the property owner in being able to keep the rents down. Lead Paint Hazard Redemption Fund has proven itself to be a remarkably successful program, and Realtors hope you will support it.
Questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much. Conservation Law Foundation, Heidi Tamarco.
Good afternoon, Heidi Tramarco from the Conservation Law Foundation. I did submit my testimony, so I will not read that here, but I'm really happy to be here today to testify in support of SB 392 and grateful for Senator Rosenwald's leadership on this bill and the prior iteration in 2022 to replenish this fund. As you've heard, this is a method to provide primary prevention to prevent childhood lead poisoning. And Since the passage of the bill in 2018 requiring all of our 1- and 2-year-olds to be tested for lead, the results show that New Hampshire children are being poisoned by lead. On average, over 500 children a year have elevated blood lead levels, resulting in permanent damage that follows them for their lifetime. So it's a real tragedy that we can avert. In addition to doing the right thing and preventing this lead poisoning, as I've attached a data brief from the Pew Center that shows that primary prevention of lead poisoning makes financial sense. And there's evidence that shows that for every dollar that's invested in preventing a child from being poisoned by lead, you see at least $17 return on that investment. I think that's a very conservative number. I've seen $21, I've seen higher. So there's a lot of costs associated with lead poisoning, and this is a way to protect children from being poisoned in the first place. So we urge the committee to vote ought to pass.
Questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kate Fry, do I still see? Oh, yeah, she's hiding back there on me. New Futures.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Kate Fry. I'm the Vice President of Advocacy at New Futures. We appreciate the opportunity to submit testimony in support of SB 392, and we also thank Senator Rosenwald for sponsoring this bill. New Futures is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that works to solve health problems through policy change. So we work together with many different stakeholders to improve health equity, and in this case, affordable health care and housing in New Hampshire. We stand strongly in support of SB 392 because it would provide additional funds for the lead paint hazard remediation fund to address the problems widespread of resolving existing lead paint hazards throughout the state. As you know, lead exposure and poisoning remains a severe threat to public health and wellness of Granite State kids. 535 children per year were found to have elevated blood levels from 2017 to 2021. You heard how it causes many health problems, including developmental delays and cognitive defects. And as many as 32,000 young children are known to be living in older homes that contain lead-based paint. So as you heard, this is a form of primary prevention, really to get to the issue of preventing lead poisoning prevention. CDC recommends both primary forms of prevention and secondary forms of prevention. That's why through our campaign this year on lead poisoning prevention, we're supporting another bill that gets at resolving issues around financial barriers for testing of lead. But what this bill does is a pure form of prevention, primary prevention for lead, where it really helps getting the lead out of New Hampshire and making our state's housing stock safe and healthy safe for families. So this remediation fund that provides financial assistance for property owners to remove their lead from the rental property, and the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority can go into detail behind us how that works, but we do understand the $3 million that had been appropriated is almost all gone, and it's really important to look at alternative ways to replenish the fund and continue this critical program. So for these reasons, we ask you to pass 392. I'm leaving you my written testimony as well as a data brief on lead exposure in New Hampshire from the department.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much. We'll go back to New Hampshire Housing again. I keep saving you guys to last so that you can wrap it up. Ooh, the mic goes the other way this time. Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Ben Frost. I'm the Deputy Director at New Hampshire Housing. With me is the Executive Director, Rob Dapis. Rob is passing around a letter in support of Senate Bill 392. And we want to thank Senator Rosenwald for introducing this legislation and so ably describing the need for it. And Senator, I think you said 53% of the housing in New Hampshire is implicated here. I did a quick check, and that is dead on accurate. Lead in paint was banned by the federal government in 1978. So we look at pre-1980 structures, and there are well in excess of 250,000 units of housing in New Hampshire that were built before 1980. Not all of them have lead, but there is a high likelihood that many of them do have lead. And many of those housing units are occupied by low-income families, either as owners or as renters. And this is really the target population that we're looking at. As you've heard, the priority is given to housing units that are under order from the Department of Health and Human Services, but any household that is occupied by a lower income family is eligible for funding here. These funds are used to make loans to the owners of the properties to remediate the hazards of lead paint, which are substantial and severe. And it's not what you might traditionally think from the old TV spots of a kid reaching and grabbing a chip of paint and adjusting it. That does happen, but it is far more insidious than that. Friction and impact surfaces, doorways and windows create dust that might get on fingers and is ingested. It's almost unavoidable in a home that is not properly remediated and has lead paint in it. This funding that has been provided by the legislature is soon to be exhausted. We estimate that it will be gone by sometime this summer. But we use it to, in fact, in the words of the statute, to supplement but not supplant the federal funding. We always apply for the federal funding whenever it is available. We have a current round coming up right now, so we'll be applying for that again. And the funds do oftentimes go together, but because of the way the legislature structured the state fund, more households are eligible for funding with the state funds than would be eligible with the federal funds. So it reaches a greater population than just the federal funds alone. So this is very important. It's also important to continue this program. And I recognize we're not in a budget cycle right now. This is an off-budget allocation appropriation that you would be making. In fact, we found that we were expending the funds faster than anticipated. So we could say, well, you can wait until the next budget cycle. Yes, that is true, but that would cause this program to shut down for a period of time. The contractors who are engaged in this work are specialized contractors. They are certified to do lead paint remediation work. If there's not this continuous supply of work for them, they're going to go elsewhere and do other things. And it's very difficult to ramp up that program. So it's really important for us to be able to continue working with those contractors, and making this appropriation would allow us to do that. I think that is all I have to say. Much has been covered by everyone else, but appreciate your consideration and recommend ought to pass.
Questions from committee members? I'll ask the question, is the $3 million the right number to get you through from now until the next budget?
We think so.
I'm going to hold you to it.
We'll do our best, Senator.
All right. Additional questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's the last person who has requested to speak. Are there anyone out there that didn't check the right box, or? Okay. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 additional people who signed up here today, all in support and online, and some of the names look like they repeat. Online sign up is 80 in support, 1 opposed, and with that we will close the public hearing. Yep, you're next. We'll open the public hearing on Senate Bill 311 and ask the prime sponsor to introduce herself.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, my name is Regina Birdsell, State Senator for District 19, which encompasses the towns of Derry, Hampstead, and Windham. And I'm here as the prime sponsor of Senate Bill 311. 311 is the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services had requested this legislation. SB 311 is a remedial legislation from the fiscal years 2024 to 25 budget omission to make an appropriation to offset the impact of the town of Hampstead's property tax base resulting in the state's purchase and acquisition of Hampstead Hospital Residential Treatment Facility. There are members of the department. There is a member of the department, Nathan White, the Chief Financial Officer, here today to provide any testimony on Senate Bill 311 if you have any questions. So with that, I will take any questions.
Senator, you had a question.
And thank you for bringing this. How long do you expect that someone might want the state to be appropriating money to fill this hole? Is this something forever, or is the town of Hampstead making plans for how to recoup what they lost when the state bought a hospital?
Well, I would venture to say it might go on for a bit of time. I know that they're planning on, right now, the decision to build the new youth development center there is going to increase the cost to the town. But I think the town is anticipating a few years down the road.
I looked at this as a payment in lieu of taxes.
Correct.
Again, so that once it's built into the budget, but I think that question probably may be more appropriate for the department. So
right.
If you have a comment on it, I'd be happy, but.
It was supposed to be put into the budget, however, it was omitted. So that's the reason we have Senate Bill 311 coming to you.
Additional questions?
Senator, you would anticipate it would go into the budget next year?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Seeing no other questions, thank you very much. Nathan from DHHS.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Nathan White, Chief Financial Officer. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have on this bill.
Just to finish off my question from the last one, I would believe this is a payment in lieu of taxes, sometimes referred to as a pilot, and that would be a normal thing to include in the budget the next time.
Yes, that is correct. The department did bring forward an item to G&C this past July. It was item 11 on the, I think, July 19th agenda, and we made a payment of $178,000, consistent with what was approved during Senate Finance this past year.
Thank you.
Thank you. So on line 4, it says the department shall distribute $191,000. Where is the $40,000 coming from that is not in this appropriation?
Sure, I will do my best to explain this without a visual table. During the agency phase, we prepared our budget assuming $178,000 or so would be paid to the town each year. During the governor's phase of the budget, there were reductions to the general fund amounts for the Hampstead budget. Money was put back in during the House phase, but not the full amount. So basically, we ended up coming up short. And so during the Senate phase of the budget, the Senate had approved $178,000 towards this, and they appropriated $154,000, And that gap, that $30,000, is what we were short as a result of the movement of the general funds during the governor House phase. I did communicate with Kevin Ripple from the LVA earlier relative to the 191. The 191 represented here, the $191,000 represented here. This is an increase of about $13,000, which is what you saw the property taxes go up in Hampstead about 8% or so. So the appropriation made here is technically about $13,000 less than what we would need to fully cover that amount. However, in Hampstead's budget, you know, we have about $9 million of general funds, and the other is other revenue. So it's a rounding error, but it's a technical issue. That's all. Yeah.
Additional questions, Senator D'Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. So, is or have the property taxes been paid for this biennium? Will there be a need for any more money to be appropriated?
So we don't pay the property taxes because the state is exempt from paying property taxes, but we do the pilot or the payment in lieu of taxes. So for state fiscal year 24, we have made that payment. This would really just be for 25 and going forward, and then we'll include whatever we need to in the subsequent biennial budget.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Seeing no other questions, thank you very much. Anyone else in the audience that wants to speak? Seeing none. There was one other person who signed in support. There was no one who signed in online, either support or object. We will close this public hearing and open the last one soon. All right. We'll open the public hearing on Senate Bill 347, and we have the prime sponsor and guest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Tim Lang for District 2, which includes the city of Laconia. With me is the mayor of Laconia, former Senator Andrew Hausmer. Senate Bill 347, it's like deja vu. We had this amendment for the budget, and it was recommended that we not do it in the budget. We bring it out as a separate bill, and that's what you have before you as a bill. What this bill seeks to do is to use $3 million from the sale price of the Laconia School project to offset infrastructure costs for the city of Laconia that is needed to develop that project. That project will have about 1,000 homes. Of that 1,000 homes, about 400 of them will be an affordable housing model. And the goal here is to reduce potential impact fees. Obviously, if you're putting 1,000 new homes into the city of Laconia, there's going to be some infrastructure costs that are going to be needed to be done, mainly in the area of water and sewer, to be able to support those homes. The city would normally take that and do an impact fee and push it right back to the developer, who would then just push it right back onto the home prices. And in this area, we're trying to encourage affordable homes. This is a step that we can take that is new money coming to the state that's not earmarked for anything. Use it to be able to directly impact what the housing prices are by not having that impact fee go forward. This bill doesn't write a check to the city of Laconia for $3 million. What this bill does is have the Department of Administrative Services hold $300 million in escrow, basically, and allow the city of Laconia to send invoices to Department of Administrative Services to pay up to $3 million in those infrastructure costs. And if you want to add anything else?
No, I think you covered everything, Senator. I'm not sure why you invited me up here with you, but for the record, Andrew Hosmer, here in my capacity as mayor of the city of Laconia. Thank you very much for entertaining our testimony, and thank you to Senator Lang for bringing this bill. This is really a significant project, and really this parcel of land has been under state control for over 100 years, and now is subject to sale. Hopefully, it's going to close within the next couple of months, we anticipate. These funds certainly will support over 400 units of affordable housing. And really, it's similar to a TIF district, which would only get funded once properties have been built and you've been able to segregate some funds and put it into the TIF account. But really what this does is allows us to do some partner with the developer upon closing and upon sale, to the proceeds go to the state. To start some of that work early to assist in some of the infrastructure needs that are going to be necessary, drive down the costs of the affordable units. So you do have a packet, or you do have a letter from the City Council, the City of Laconia, supporting this bill, and hope you take a look at that, and I'm happy to take any questions as well, and thank you again.
Just on the sale, you said that it's pending, I should say, it's on the market, I should say. And do you know what the state's asking price is?
The state, thank you for the question, Senator Gray. I'm happy to respond to that. It was an open bid. The winning bid, if I'm not mistaken, was $21.5 million, from which the state would receive a net of $20 million. I believe $16 million of it was allocated for another project in HB2 last year. So there is some funds left over, assuming it's sold for $21.5 million.
Questions from the other senators? Senator D'Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really would ask the chair to have Charlie Allinghouse here to comment on the sale of this property. I'm very concerned about this. This property has been posted for a long period of time. There has been an attempt to get a closing date. That's been pushed off to another time, which has been pushed off to another time. It's very important for the city of Laconia. Look, I've been around this project for a long time. I've been around this project for 50 years. I can tell you when we built the buildings there, when we built the new buildings there, when we put the prison there, when we cut a deal on the expansion of the prison there, when we had the community college there. I mean, all of these things have taken place on a periodic basis. This valuable piece of property, by the way, they took the best piece of it and preserved it for the state. The oceanfront property. let's call it the oceanfront property. That's not part of the deal. That's being saved. So you got a situation where I think we've got to hear from the Commission of Admin Services.
Certainly make sure that the opportunity for him to come over is available. And I'm sure that you can also make a phone call to him at that time. We just have to pick a day when we're going to talk about this in exec session.
I just think, Mr. Chairman, that the public should know that we want to sell it. I mean, and we want to take care of the city of Laconia. But some pressure's got to be put on the people who have extended a bid to deliver what they bid on. Either that, or you redo the whole process and get other people to bid on it. It's a very valuable piece of property. We got rid of
We'll
the
certainly
HHS
certainly
situation
take up
that was
all
there.
those issues when we get into executive session. So.
Okay, great, thank you.
Senator, if I may, so one thing I will tell you is GNC, the Governing Council, has announced that it'll be closed this month. So the closing is supposed to happen in January. That was the latest word about a week ago, that they've come down to the end of the road, and it should be this month. And as you said, there is a parcel of land that's at the side of Ahern State Park that allows that water access.
Senator Rosenwald, you had a question.
Well, it's basically what to ask DAS when the closing is projected to be now. So if it's, I don't know how many more executive council meetings there are in January. I think there was one tomorrow, which is the 10th, so there'll be one more.
So my anticipation will be the last week in January they'll accept, but that's my understanding from my last visit, chatting with executive councilors in the government.
Between LBA and the committee assistant, we will ask for what the closing date is, and we will notify the senators via mail system. Additional questions?
Senator, I think I can comment on that. It was postponed to January 15th, which was sort of a drop-dead date that came out of GNC. I do have some reservations that, as I understand, the state has not finished up some of their paperwork, some of their obligations during the due diligence period that may get pushed into February. So it pains me to even think about that because we waited long
We'll
enough.
still have a mask, Mr. Mayor, so maybe we'll give you more information if we get the answer. Okay, seeing no additional questions, thank you very much for your testimony. There is no one else that signed up in person and online. There were 3 people that signed in support, no signed in opposition. Close the public hearing. Is there anyone who does want to go into executive session at this time? So moved. All right. Senator Bradley has a motion to go into executive session. Senator Pearl has seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. We are in executive session. Senate Bill 311, we have a motion of ought to pass.
I'll second that.
And we have a second. Do we have any additional comments?
What's that? This is pretty much it.
Most of it has been paid. Yes.
Most of it's been paid.
No, but this is for, I think, the June payment, isn't it?
This is for moving forward.
Yeah,
I think that, a couple of things. I think it's important to get bills on the calendar for next week, and I think this is one that we would be ready to go with. There was an oversight last year that it was not included in HB2, and that's why I think we should move forward with it now.
I think you're right. I did call over to HHS, and I did speak to Nathan about this and about the payment. And I spoke to the commissioner, and she said that the money had been sent to Hempstead.
For 24.
For 24. Everything
Right.
everything was taken care of. So we're not negligent in our duty in terms of taking care of the town of Hempstead.
Okay, additional comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of passage of Senate Bill 311, say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And Senator Birdsell?
I will take it out,
You get
and
to
I want
take
to
it out.
thank you all. I know that Hampstead's been struggling, especially last summer, with everything that's been going on with Hampstead Hospital, and this will at least smooth some ruffled feathers.
Okay. Oh, Senator, anyone else want to comment?
Just for the benefit of the committee, Mr. Chair, Senate Bill 395 that we heard last week. I'd be bringing a floor amendment to change the effective date from 60 days to upon passage. This is money we've already allocated, and the commissioner, in a follow-up conversation Commissioner Jasper and I had, he asked if I'd be willing to do that, and I said, sure thing. He neglected to ask for it when the bill was drafted or mentioned it in the committee hearing. So I will be bringing that floor amendment on the 18th.
And I suggested they do it as a floor amendment since it's coming to the floor anyway.
Yes.
And instead of trying to get it back and, reconsider the vote and all of that, we'll do it as a floor amendment.
Have you already passed this?
Yes.
Yes.
Never mind then.
Last time.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Do I have a motion to come out of executive
So
session?
moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to come out of executive session. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. We're out of executive session. Our business of the day being complete, we are adjourned.